This is why I hate the Mississippi State Bulldogs, and boy, they earned this one.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast around. I am your host, Steven Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member. Today's show, we talk about why I hate the Mississippi Bulldogs and why, honestly, there is a deep-rooted sense of superiority over that group built on years of their actions and behavior. We dive into this year's edition of the Battle for the Golden Egg and how I expect that game to play out and what Austin Simmons needs to know heading into his first Egg Bowl experiences. My list of grievances is long. Trust me, they've earned every single one of them. This is the game I most don't want to lose. This is the Egg Bowl. Remember, we're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day, and a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is. And don't forget to check out a second listen on the network. Chris Gordy at Locked On SEC or Corey Burton at Locked On Vandy offer even more perspectives on college football, the SEC, and yes, even Ole Miss. It's pretty interesting. Growing up in South Mississippi like I did, the Ole Miss versus Mississippi State game is well ingrained into my psyche, and it basically developed a hate relationship pretty quickly. You were either Ole Miss or you were State or you were a weirdo in Southern Mississippi. That's pretty much how it worked out. If you were a front runner, you might be Alabama or you might be LSU in South Mississippi. In North Mississippi, I don't know what the LSU would be, but in South Mississippi, maybe it's Tennessee, is LSU. So the Ole Miss Mississippi State game was ingrained, and you had a situation growing up 6, 7, and 8 years old, just learning the basics in this rivalry. And you immediately find out one of your first lessons is they don't care about them. All they care about is you. They are very much a go to hell Ole Miss fan base. They even spell it out in games. They care more about beating Ole Miss than anybody else. If they went 1-11 and their one was against Ole Miss, they would consider the season a special season. If they went 11-1 and their loss was to Ole Miss, they would consider the season a failure. They'll argue to the otherwise, but their actions prove otherwise. They are in that boat to where what goes on at Ole Miss is in the front of their mind at all times. And it makes sense. Listen, Johnny Vaught broke that fan base. Absolutely broke them. With him winning somewhere in the neighborhood of like 17 out of 19 games, and it was like 17-0-2 was Johnny Vaught's record against Mississippi State or something like that. That developed an air of superiority, especially in the football programs, with those two programs separating. And Mississippi State fought to get that back even. They wanted so bad to be superior to Ole Miss in football. You think about the Tommy Kelly stuff to where they would hide people in the Ramada Inn back in the late 90s. Everything going on, watching Ole Miss like a hawk. You had a Mississippi State beat reporter / fan write a book about Ole Miss cheating and helping an investigation to bring Ole Miss football down. Mississippi State did not care at all if they burned their own house down as long as they got Ole Miss. And you know what? That's exactly what happened. Because yes, Ole Miss got put on 2 years of probation. Yes, Mississippi State got that courtroom victory. Yes, Leo Lewis had the Joker pose of him clapping and all of that. They were able to take down Ole Miss, but in their mind, they thought they were taking them down forever and perhaps they could pass them. And they started acting that way. They even fired Joe Moorhead, who was 2-0 against Ole Miss, because they were trying to move past it. But here's the problem. They can't move past it. It's their whole identity. Not hating Ole Miss not caring 100% about Ole Miss would be about like them not making cheese and ice cream anymore. It just would fundamentally change who they are. And when Matt Luke lost his job after Joe Moorhead beat him to win his second consecutive Egg Bowl in 2019 after the piss and the miss with Elijah Moore fake peeing in the end zone, Ole Miss went out and hired Lane Kiffin. Elijah Moore fake peeing in the end zone was the best thing that has ever happened to Ole Miss athletics. Athletics, not just football, athletics. Lane Kiffin coming to Ole Miss completely changed the paradigm to the point where Mississippi State knew what was going on. They got rid of Joe Moorhead, and they thought they could go out and get a Mike Leach and be competitive. And yes, Mike Leach was able to win the last game he ever coached against Ole Miss. R.I.P., God rest his soul. But that was also the only time in the last 5 years or so that Mississippi State has beaten Ole Miss. 2020, Ole Miss won. 2021, Ole Miss won. 2022, Mississippi State and the Mike Leach game. 2023, Ole Miss won. 2024, Ole Miss won. If Ole Miss wins again, that is 5 out of 6 games. It is at a point to where domination is being established at a record place. And I tell people all the time, if you see a State fan, give them a hug. Be nice to them. Be kind. We are currently living in their darkest timeline. Since they won their baseball national championship and thought they arrived and had something that they could hold over Ole Miss forever in 2021, it has gone absolutely terribly for them. Ole Miss won the baseball championship in 2022. They didn't even have a year to focus on the fact that they won theirs before their rival got theirs. Ole Miss has actually been to 2 Sweet 16s this century. Mississippi State, none. For a team that is so superior about basketball, they sure don't win in the tournament. And in football, it's clear. Ole Miss is on the cusp of making it into a college football playoff. Mississippi State is on the cusp of winning 4 or 5 games. These athletic departments right now are on different planets. And Mississippi State has earned every bit of this by everything they tried to put Ole Miss through to bring them down, to bring down Hugh Freeze, because Mississippi State had a big part in catching Hugh Freeze for his proclivities as well. Mississippi State brought every single bit of what's happening right now on themselves. They are currently paying Piper for what they did. We said at the very beginning, and while it was happening, I said, I was not doing this podcast then, but I said this then, they would burn their own house down if they could burn down Ole Miss's house. All they care about is that Ole Miss gets hurt. Not that they do well, not that they survive. They are fine being a battered Bulldog. Ole Miss has always been the target. It's been what they want to be. It's been who they want to take down. Everything in their life is about Ole Miss, to the point where I think when they close their eyes, it's like a neon sign that lights up that says Ole Miss. It's nuts. There's been some really great games in this series, though. Some nuts games. And I'll tell you why Ole Miss has been able to leave Mississippi State in the dust, to leave them behind. A failed state of a program that Mississippi State athletics is, Ole Miss has been able to separate themselves finally. I'll tell you why that happened next. So for years, pretty much the last 20 years, Mississippi State figured out one thing. And if they could make this game completely about each other, to where Ole Miss was completely focused on Mississippi State, and Mississippi State matched their focus, whenever they could tunnel vision that, they knew that they could close the gap because Ole Miss would not be able to separate. Because Ole Miss's ceiling over Mississippi State is much higher. Mississippi State is actually closer to Southern Miss's ceiling than Ole Miss's ceiling. And it's just the way it is. Ole Miss is a program that can legitimately make the playoffs, win a national title. They can. Mississippi State is a program that can literally win 8 or 9 ball games and go to a decent bowl like the Duke's Mayo Bowl. That's kind of their ceiling. Their best year ever when they had Dak Prescott, Ole Miss absolutely drilled them in the Egg Bowl that year. And then Ole Miss did it again and got back to the Sugar Bowl. Mississippi State has never been to a Sugar Bowl in football. You believe that? Never. Not once. I'm pretty sure every program in the Southeastern Conference, with the exception of Mississippi State, maybe Vanderbilt, has been to a Sugar Bowl. It's absolutely nuts. Again, Mississippi State has earned all of this hatred and everything that's gone on by the way they behaved and their actions. But I am going to ask all Ole Miss fans, be kind to a Mississippi State fan. You are currently living in their darkest timeline. You are currently living in a world where the one thing they care most about would be the equivalent of an Ole Miss fan finding out that Santa Claus didn't exist, that Christmas was canceled. Basically, evil sheriff of Nottingham land. That is what Mississippi State is going through at the moment. And it's almost a shame. It's not worth going back to, and where if you make everything about them and what was going on. But there's been some fantastic games in the series. The Immaculate Deflection, the game that God proved that he hated Mississippi State. And Mississippi State fans would probably agree with the fact that God hates them. And the Immaculate Deflection is just another example of why that's happened. You know, the Stand game in 1992, where Mississippi State had like 12 plays inside the 10-yard line or something like that, and all they needed was a touchdown. They couldn't get it. Great stand after stand. It just seemingly went on and on and on, and there was nothing that Mississippi State can do. Quarterback for that day for Mississippi State was Greg Plump. He threw the last pass that was incomplete. You know, you look at other games in the series. There's the the Deuce to Romero throwback pass in, what was it, 2000 or something like that. You have Eli's last game that sent Jackie Sherrill into retirement. We're almost won like 34-0 or 38-0 or something like that with Eli Manning in his last regular season game. Even in the Ed Orgeron era, Marche Green returning a punt for a touchdown. I was on top of the press box filming that. Him taking it into the end zone in a game that basically gave Ed Orgeron at least a singular decent moment for the Ole Miss fan base. And then Jevin Sneed, Prey Jerry, Houston Nutt, and that whole team. It was at the point where I genuinely felt bad for Tyson Lee and Wesley Carroll and Chris Relf, whoever came in at quarterback. Ole Miss gave up negative 70 yards rushing in that game or something like that. It was a beatdown. It was a massive game. Ole Miss won 45-0. Every game that these two teams have met with something on the line, Ole Miss has found a way to win. Go back to the 2-point conversion play. That's Stuart Patridge to Corey Peterson throwing over there. We've seen the play that happened. It almost got tipped. It didn't. It was caught by Corey Peterson. Ole Miss won and went to the Motor City Bowl that started their ascendancy to what they are now. Literally started to what they are now in 1997. You know, Hugh Freeze, feed Moncrief game. 3 touchdown passes to Dante Moncrief, throwing the ball downfield against an NFL corner. So many great moments by the Ole Miss Rebels. This game is a special game. I like the Egg Bowl. I hate to lose the Egg Bowl. When I lose, well, when we feel like we lose after the game, you're driving, you don't even want to stop and gas. You don't want to see anybody inside the state of Mississippi for fear that they are of the other team and they're ready to go, because everybody goads each other after this game. Now, this game, I'm not expecting to be wild. I'm not expecting it to be crazy. I am expecting Mississippi State to play hard, and I'm expecting Cowbells to be out. I don't think it will be a sellout, and I think there's a good chance that there's more Ole Miss people there than Mississippi State people. I think that this game has a chance to be against a with a 4-win or so or a 5-win or so Mississippi State team. I think Mississippi State's going to win their non-conference games this year. Maybe not. I think if Arizona State's on there, they won't win that one. But 3-1. If they play Arizona State, it'd be 3-1. And then I think they beat Tennessee. I don't know why I think that. I think Jeff Lebby just has a plan against that defense against Tennessee. So we'll see how that works out. But that's 4 wins going into the Egg Bowl. No chance of going to a bowl game. No chance for really anything. They're going to play hard because this game is their whole identity. It's like I said, if they win one game and they lose 11, it's a successful season if the one game is the Ole Miss game. So we'll see how it goes. It'll be Austin Simmons' first start. It'll be a big situation for Ole Miss football. And this game has a chance to be almost a coronation for Austin Simmons. If you make it through the other games, there's a chance that winning this game gets Ole Miss into the playoffs. A very real chance. You have to beat LSU. You have to beat 2 out of 3 or something like that of Georgia, South Carolina, and Oklahoma. And you probably need to beat Florida. You can stand to lose 2 of those games, but you can't lose a third. Ole Miss has got a talented front 7. They need to work on the back end of their defense. I think they will. There's rumors of a cornerback from Clemson that everybody's talking about. And Austin Simmons actually tweeted a shark at him, or Instagrammed a shark at him whenever he announced he was jumping into the portal after, I don't know, the portal window opens up in like 10 days or whatever that might be the 15th. So we'll see exactly how it goes. Ole Miss is building their roster the best way they know how. And the way it's situated right now, winning or dominating, I should say, in football, having a higher ceiling right now in basketball, making it to a Sweet 16. And we're all thinking about potentially Elite 8. What's the next step for this Ole Miss basketball team with Chris Beard coming back and baseball having a natty in last couple of years? That is pretty impressive. So in our final segment, Austin Simmons' first game on the road with Cowbells and in that atmosphere of the Egg Bowl, how will he take it? Likely this will be why Austin Simmons will do something that Jackson Dart could not do the last 2 years, and that is go off on Mississippi State. Stick around and we will talk about it. Austin Simmons has a big Egg Bowl where he comes in to be a starting quarterback. You see that quite a bit, to where the Ole Miss quarterback has their first start on the road. Generally in Starkville, it didn't happen to Jackson Dart. But Matt Corral did. I think Jordan Tamu in 2017 played down there. It's weird. Chad Kelly was there. All of that. And it goes back to Bo Wallace, who had a home game as well. But it's weird that it seems to work out that way more times than not. It doesn't. It's just a coincidence. It doesn't mean one thing or another, because the weird thing is Mississippi State has won exactly one time since 2013. I think 2013 they beat Bo Wallace. That's whenever Wallacing became a thing, where they kept showing memes of him landing on it, or like fumbling going into the end zone, back when they were doing the billboards and many happy returns, and they were very excited about the toxicity of the rivalry. You remember those wonderful times way back when? Well, Mississippi State has won at home exactly one time since then. That was in 2019, the best play in the history of Ole Miss football and athletics. But they lost in 2015, they lost in 2017, they won in 2019, they lost in 2021, and they lost in 2023. So Ole Miss is going for winning 5 out of the last 6 games in the series, but also 15, 17, 19, 21, 23. Yeah, it'll be 5 out of 6 on the road and winning in Starkville if Ole Miss can win the game. So there's a lot of stuff that's in Ole Miss's favor at the moment. I think Austin Simmons is going to handle this very well for Ole Miss. I mean, he played in the Muck Bowl. Everybody's like, that's high school football, but that's serious high school football. That's what you need to know. That isn't like McLaurin and Florence. That isn't like Raleigh and Taylorsville, to where two teams that are nearby and play each other. No, it's a serious rivalry. It's a high school rivalry on the scale of a McGee-Mendenhall, to where it actually really means something, where there's decades of hatred and all of this going on, which, by the way, Simpson County Central is the dumbest idea ever. And the fact that the McGee-Mendenhall game is going away, they should be ashamed of themselves, period. So Austin Simmons, going into that, I think he's cool as a cucumber. I talked to Austin Simmons a few weeks back before spring practice started, and he mentioned using the Muck Bowl between Glade Central and Pahokee, Florida, as kind of a benchmark for the games playing in college football, because he's been in high intensity battles, even though it's high school football. Now, granted, he'll get out there, and in Mississippi State, it'll probably be a little bit differently set up. It'll be ringing. The cowbells will be out. The atmosphere will be great. It sounds like a bee buzzing when you go down to that stadium. I've been down there 2 or 3 times. Have not been back there since Ed Orgeron's last game. That was the last time that I went to Starkville. And the one thing you notice is it is very, very much like, it sounds like bees buzzing, the cowbells and everything going on. And they don't ring responsibly in that game, and they never face fines for it. And it's absolutely ridiculous. It's the point where at Ole Miss home games and Mississippi State's on offense, I just want people to bring air horns and let them jokers go as well. Because the artificial noisemaker thing, even if it's a tradition in the name of fairness, you can allow Mississippi State to have it. You need to allow the other team to have something as well. That's called fair. In other games, you don't have anything, but in that game, hey, bring a gallon jug filled with rocks, do something, because that's what they have with their cowbells. So it's absolutely weird. But Austin Simmons went down in 2023. He was on the sideline for that game. He saw the atmosphere firsthand of Jackson Dart winning. He saw how hard fought it was. He saw how much effort they put into it. And because of that, and because he's played in high intensity rivalry type games, I'm expecting Austin Simmons to play pretty well. I don't think the moment's going to be too much for him at all. I think he is going to be pretty good when he comes to the Egg Bowl. Now, one of the things that I think he might be about to go off and do something that Jackson Dart was unable to do the last 2 years, because he only threw for like 260 yards over the last 2 games against Mississippi State. That's combined. That's not a piece. He's averaging about 130 yards a game against Mississippi State. Mississippi State did a good job against Jackson Dart. And that makes sense. Jeff Lebby would know what gives that offense trouble. Jeff Lebby understands that. Jeff Lebby has been in that offense for the better part of 15 years, something like that. So he would know. And when you have a quarterback like Jackson Dart, and we give him grief about it from time to time, but it's like I said, he duck and chucks. He liked to throw the ball downfield. He was the 70 Oakland Raiders. All of that stuff. Austin Simmons is not that guy. He will hit his checkdowns. He will find exactly where the open spots are in the defense, and he will strategically figure out how to take shots. I think he is a tailor-made quarterback designed to make a play, to move the ball. And he is going to be difficult to stop because of that. We'll see exactly how that goes and exactly where Austin lines up, but I think he's going to do pretty well as well. All right, so we finished our last evergreen post-surgery. I might already be back. I don't know yet. I mean, I filmed all of these before the surgery, but I did 6 weeks of evergreens to make us get to June, essentially. And hopefully I'm back, and hopefully I'm doing what I do. But if I'm not, probably means there was a side effect. But if I am, I've been back for a couple weeks at this point, but I do want everybody to have this video. Remember, continue to watch every video that is on this channel. Continue to subscribe to this channel. Continue to listen and subscribe and comment and rate and review on everywhere the podcasts are. If you do that, that helps us out. And if you want to do a little bit more, you can go down to the bottom in the description, and there's a link to the subtext, $5 to join. And in that $5, I keep every single bit of it. And I'm doing that in lieu of a GoFundMe as we're getting ready for college football season. We're getting close to SEC Media Days. It's about a month and a half out. I'm planning on going to Atlanta for that if everything is okay, if there's no side effects and craziness in my surgery. That's going to be my, hey, you made it type deal. So we'll see exactly how that goes. Thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the number one Ole Miss podcast. Your support means the world to us. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On SEC podcast with Chris Gordy. He looks over and goes over the best conference in all of college sports, getting ready for football season, SEC Media Days, and a summer of fun. You can find Locked On SEC on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hotty toddy, everybody. Remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you later.